Last but not least, we get to solve using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is kind of a tedious formula, but it will never, ever fail you. This is what it is right here. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. When you are taking like the ACT or any kind of standardized test, they are never going to give you this formula. You have to have it memorized. But I have an easy way for you to memorize it, and you can just tell yourself a happy little story. What you have is you have a very negative boy who can't decide, positive, negative, can't decide if he wants to go to this totally radical party, man. And then you know how they say, like, be there or be squared? Do you know why they say that? Because if you're there, like, if you're not there, you're not around. Get it? So b squared. He didn't go, and because he didn't go, he missed out on 4 awesome cupcakes. The party got over at 2 a.m. So that's one way you can memorize that little formula there. So one thing you do need to take note of is when you're using this formula, it does have to equal 0. You don't get a choice. It has to equal 0. So when I'm looking at my example over here, it doesn't equal 0. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. Oops, I didn't do a very good job there, did I? Here we go. Minus 16 equals 0. Great. Now, you can start plugging in. So for negative b, look at the b value. That's 6. Negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4. What's my a value? Because there's not a number written here, that means your a value is going to be 1. Then the c value is negative 16. Watch out, if it says minus, that means your number is negative, so make sure you grab that negative sign with it. Over 2 times 1. And then, like I said, it's a little tedious to solve, but it's foolproof. You're always going to get the right answer. So 6 squared is going to give me 36. And if I do a negative 4 times 1, that's negative 4. And negative 4 times negative 16 is now going to give me a positive 64. 2 times 1 is 2. If I simplify 36 plus 64, that's 100. And the square root of 100 is 10. You want to simplify this all the way down until you're stuck with just a number plus or minus a number divided by a third number. That's what I have here. Now you actually have 2 equations. One equation is going to be utilizing this plus sign, and the other equation is going to be utilizing the minus sign. So negative 6 plus 10 divided by 2, negative 6 minus 10 divided by 2. Okay, solve those. Negative 6 plus 10 is 4, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Negative 6 minus 10 is negative 16, and negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8. So your 2 answers are 2 and negative 8. And today, you do not write these as a point because our answers aren't points. They're looking for where it crosses the x-axis. So if anything, you would just simply say x equals 2 and negative 8. Like that. Okay, without necessarily doing a bunch more examples and wasting your time, one thing I want you to know is, like on this example, you're going to do a whole bunch of work, and you're going to end up at a point that says negative 16 plus or minus the square root of 0 over 2. Well, the square root of 0 is just 0, right? So you end up with negative 16 plus or minus 0 over 2. It doesn't matter if you do negative 16 plus 0 or negative 16 minus 0. Either way, it's negative 16 divided by 2, right? So this one only has one solution. If you graphed it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it looks like this. 3a and 4a just want you to know that you can have decimal answers. Big deal. Last but not least then, I want to talk about the discriminant. Every once in a while, we really don't care about what the answers are. We just care about how many there are. So we're going to find something called the discriminant. The discriminant is literally just the stuff underneath the radical sign. Okay, right there in red and yellow. If you do b squared minus 4ac and you get a positive answer, it has 2 roots, right? 2 roots. If it's a negative number, it has no solution. And if it equals 0, it has exactly 1 solution. That was not a very good parabola. There we go. Okay, so let's do an example real quick. And again, you're just doing the negative b, oh, I'm sorry. You're just doing the b squared minus 4ac. That's the discriminant. Again, make sure it equals 0 and plug in. B squared, that's going to be 8 squared minus 4. A is negative 5 and C is negative 1. So let's simplify that. That's going to be 64. Negative 4 times negative 5 times negative 1 is a negative 20. So the answer is 44. Now that's not my answer. I want to know the type of roots or the number of roots for the equation. And again, because it's a positive number, it has 2 roots. So I'm going to say 2 solutions, or 2 real solutions. Here's something I kind of want to clarify on this. The reason that makes sense, like if my discriminant is 44, that means you're going to be finding the square root of 44, which is going to give you both a positive and a negative number to split into the 2 equations. If you get a negative discriminant, let's pretend it was a negative 44, you can't take the square root of a negative number. So that's why this one has no solution. If it equals 0, well, that's like the last one we did here, where the square root of 0 is just 0, and it doesn't matter if you add or subtract 0, you get the same number either way. So that's why with the square root of 0, it's just 1 solution. Just to clarify for you. I think I'm going to make a second video, except for remember right, Delta Math does weird things. So stay tuned.